January 2019. 23-year-old Jennifer Chen is traveling back home to China to celebrate Lunar New Year's with her parents. She had just sat down with her family to enjoy a New Year's meal when she heard a knock on the door. It was the police. They had come to arrest Jennifer. There seems to be some back and forth between the authorities and Jennifer, but in the end, they arrested and took her to the police station. The whole family was shocked. Why would the government want to arrest Jennifer? She's a bright young student who just finished her undergrad in Europe. She's just coming back to China to spend some time with her parents before going back for grad school. Her family had no clue, but what Jennifer had done was considered a treasonous sin by the government. She had liked a tweet on Twitter that criticized the CCP. Whether it was done by accident or on purpose, it didn't matter to the authorities. It was enough for her to be arrested and questioned. Eventually, they forced her to delete the Twitter account if she wanted to return home. But the government didn't stop there. They continue to track Jennifer's internet usage even after she went back to Europe, and authorities regularly call her mom and ask her if she's visited any human rights websites. This isn't some unique, singular story from China. There's countless amounts of evidence about CCP tracking their citizens and punishing them if they ever get out of line. There's a terrifying video of Chinese cops interrogating a Chinese student who was living in Australia. They had arrested his father and called him using his father's phone and were pushing him to delete his Twitter account.
什么？推特？
这个推特号是不是你的？
我就是没有听说过这个号，从来没听说过。
今天我找你父亲过来的，我们跟你父亲平时也保持沟通，你可以对我跟你通话这个过程进行录音录像，没问题，好吧？但是我明天我就告诉你一声，我在找你父亲，好吧？你可以录音录像，我明天告诉你。而且你现在我跟你讲，你那个推特发的那些东西是绝对不可以的。
The CCP has been perfecting its art of cyber warfare for a while now. That's why any video criticizing the communist regime is quickly downvoted by CCP bots, and the comment section is filled with pro-CCP messages by these bots. Here's an example. So, I just have a simple request for you guys. If you can smash that like button below, it would help the video tremendously. Now, I'm sure you're wondering why I'm telling you all of this. Most of you watching are probably not Chinese citizens, so you don't need to worry about the CCP. But you see, the CCP has already thought of that, and this was their solution. They realized that punishing foreign citizens for criticism of China is basically impossible, especially at a large scale. But what if instead of punishing what people were saying, you could control what they said, control what they thought, and control what they believe? What if there was an app that could track people's every click, every swipe, and every stroke? Once you have enough data on everyone, you can slowly feed them what they want, so people are always glued to your app. Once you have them addicted, that's when the plan starts. You first feed them something small and believable, then move on to feeding them information that you want them to believe. Like telling your users that the Tiananmen Square massacre never really happened, or blocking them from accessing any videos from Hong Kong democracy protests. Then you can feed them what you want them to say. Then you can feed them what you want them to think. And maybe, just maybe, if you get enough data on your users, you can control a whole nation's future. The only problem is that it's the year 2017, and China doesn't really have an app like this. They did have an extremely successful news app called Headlines that more than 100 million Chinese citizens used on a daily basis. This was a powerful tool for the CCP, who had a tight grip around the app's developer. If the CCP wanted to promote more pro-Mr. Xi propaganda, then it was able to just order the developers to do so. If there was ever any news that the CCP didn't like, it would force the app management to issue a public apology and take down the article. Even though Headlines was a private company, you have to remember, there's no such thing as a private company in China. But this control wasn't enough for the CCP. So in 2017, they passed a new law, the National Intelligence Law of the People's Republic of China. In the simplest terms, according to the law, every citizen and company is required to support, assist, and cooperate with the state's intelligence work. So if the government ever asked for foreign citizens' data, companies are legally required to give it up. You know what else happened in 2017? Headlines, the app that happily pushed Chinese propaganda, decided to expand to the USA. In America, the app would be called Newsmaster, and it would show people whatever news people wanted to see, with CCP's conditions applied, of course. Unfortunately, the foreign news market was already dominated by big players like Google and Facebook. Headlines spent a lot of money to break in, but it was all for nothing. After multiple rebrands and name changes, the losses were just too much for the company, and they decided to shut down their overseas app. The CCP's dream of controlling foreign citizens' thinking and data was to no avail. It was all over. Now, it's not just TikTok. Various small websites and apps are tracking everything you do. Even though most are not owned by the CCP, they do sell your data to the highest bidder. So this data can end up in the hands of unsavory buyers. This is where today's sponsor, Atlas VPN, can protect you. Atlas will keep your IP address and search history private, so your data doesn't end up in the wrong hands. On top of this, you can enjoy other benefits like watching region-locked content on streaming sites and actually save money on your flights and vacations if you search from other countries. Best of all, right now, Atlas VPN is running a huge discount. It means you can get a 3-year subscription for just $1.83 a month, plus 3 months for free with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Just one subscription will work on all your devices and protect you wherever you are surfing the web. Time is running out, so get your deal by clicking on the link in the video description below. Then, out of nowhere, an opportunity presented itself. As Newsmaster was failing, there was another once successful app that had just failed. That app was Vine. You see, Vine's failure was unique. Unlike millions of apps that fail, Vine actually had a huge amount of downloads and active users. The problem for Vine was that it was owned by Twitter, and Twitter management never really focused enough on Vine to generate income.
When we had those meetings with Twitter, I noticed that Twitter did not care about Vine and was so focused on Twitter. Every meeting I would have with Twitter, and I would bring up Vine, I would bring up you, I would bring up King Batch.
It was the ugly stepchild.
Yeah, they just didn't care. I don't think they're gonna care. They don't care about Vine. I think Vine's gonna go downhill. I think it's time to move our following from Vine to these other platforms, because this is about to be a sinking ship.
No monetization and Twitter's lack of effort forced many creators to jump to better platforms. With content creators leaving, users slowly stopped using the app, and Vine was shut down completely in 2017. Rest in peace. Newsmaster CEO Zhang Yiming saw this as an opportunity. But first, there's something that I haven't shared with you guys so far. Newsmaster and Headlines both were owned by a company called ByteDance, which is the same company that founded and currently owns TikTok, too. And this was the exact moment when TikTok was born. Zhang looked at the failure of Vine, and he saw an opportunity. He realized that there was already a market for short videos, and the market was left wide open for the taking when Twitter shut down Vine. All Zhang had to do was figure out how to monetize an app like Vine, and he had the keys to foreign markets. Fortunately, ByteDance also owned another app called Douyin, which was basically the Vine of China, and it had an extremely powerful algorithm that kept the users hooked on the app for hours a day. So, in just a few short months, ByteDance was able to use the tools at their disposal to create a new app for foreign markets, and this was the birth of TikTok.
The powers of TikTok.
TikTok explodes in popularity.
TikTok, ADHD in app form.
TikTok, it's like the party you want to be at the moment.
TikTok's addictive 15-second video format could give Facebook a run for its money.
The app is called TikTok.
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 What is TikTok?
TikTok. TikTok, of course, is the new kid on the block.
TikTok saw some quick initial success, but this wasn't enough for ByteDance. So to add fuel to this fire, they decided to buy Musical.ly for $1 billion, just 2 months after launching TikTok. Musical.ly was a Chinese social media app that had around 70 million users in the USA. This was the jumpstart that TikTok's rocket ship needed. Just 3 short months after acquiring Musical.ly, TikTok had become the #1 free app in several countries. TikTok still wasn't satisfied though. They kept pushing on for new highs and more downloads. By September 2018, it had become the most downloaded app in the USA, and the 3rd most downloaded in the world. By this point, it had surpassed its Chinese counterpart, Douyin. TikTok now had 500 million global users, and Douyin stood back at 300 million. TikTok's hunger still wasn't satisfied, and this is when the founders figured out a growth hack that would flip the entire social media industry on its head. TikTok figured out that in order to grab more people's attention, they just need to get celebrities on the app and push it. You see, that's the playbook for controlling Western audiences. Snapchat did this with Kylie Jenner, Instagram had Selena Gomez, and now TikTok wanted its own celebrity, which would become synonymous to the platform. First, they got the Tonight Show host Jimmy Fallon. I will admit his influence isn't anywhere close to Kylie or Selena, but this was just the start for TikTok. When Fallon pushed his TV and YouTube audience to the app, downloads exploded. The effect was enough for other celebrities to take notice, and slowly seemed like everyone else was on it. Now, this was all just one aspect of the success. When measuring the success of the app, downloads aren't really the best metric. Downloads are important, but they mean nothing if users are just downloading and uninstalling the app. The best metric to gauge an app's success is daily or monthly active users. How many people are regularly opening the app and spending reasonable amounts of time on it? TikTok had perfected the top of the funnel, but for it to influence people's beliefs and thinking, it needed to perfect the rest of the funnel. This is where its uber-powerful algorithm comes in. Scrolling on an app tricks the brain into pleasure by the release of dopamine. But this isn't something new. Instagram makes you scroll, YouTube app has a scroll. TikTok, well, they took this to the next level. What if you can turn this scrolling into an addiction like gambling? Then you have an app that can change societies. But for us to understand what TikTok did, we first have to truly understand what gambling addiction is.
I'm going to tell you something that's going to shock all of you. I'm a gambling addict. I know. I haven't really talked about it much, but it's true and shocking. 5 years ago, it got so bad I had $100 left in my bank account. And you know what I did with that 100? I gambled it on a Mario Party 4 minigame against slime. And lost. I panicked, didn't know what to do, so I asked for a double or nothing, knowing that if I lost the double or nothing, I would have zero way of paying the final 200, and I would have to embarrassingly walk away from the bet. Luckily, I won. I told Slime about that months later, and he forgave me, but it just shows how bad my gambling addiction got. Honestly, there was no greater rush in my life than the opportunity to lose every last penny I had.
Gambling isn't really about money. I'm sure people go into a casino wanting to make money. Everyone walking in wants to get rich gambling on their luck, but that's not why they stay there. The reward for gambling addicts isn't the money or even the winning. The true reward or the real drug is the possibility of winning. Someone who is constantly putting down money on a roulette table or a slot machine isn't really doing it for the winning, but for that feeling they get when they win a roll unexpectedly. Addicts know that they're gonna win, or at least they believe they will. They just don't know which roll it's gonna be. Next one, or maybe the one after that, or maybe the one after that. So in the hopes of winning the next roll, they just keep on betting. And as soon as that moment comes, the cycle completes itself and restarts all over again. That's the evil magic of gambling. Now, TikTok realized that scrolling is a dopamine hit for the brain, but it's not enough to keep users on the app for too long. After some time, the human brain just gets used to the dopamine, and at that point, scrolling has no effect on its users. It becomes boring. The user closes the app and moves on to something else. Now, TikTok doesn't want that, do they? So instead of providing a constant stream of dopamine, what if we take a page out of the casino's playbook and we turn the scroll into a game of chance? What if the user doesn't even know when the next hit is coming? So what you do is you show them some average videos and randomly throw in a really exciting one. That way users know that if they scroll long enough, there's a dopamine hit coming. Just like a roulette table. As soon as you get that dopamine hit, the cycle restarts. This was the jackpot, so to speak, that TikTok hit. It nailed down the recipe to get people addicted and keep them hooked. And the more time the users spend on the platform, the more powerful the algorithm becomes. That's because the app is tracking your every touch, every swipe, and every stroke. What you are watching is a reasonable thing to keep track of, but it goes deeper than that. It tracks your keystroke, it reads your copy and paste clipboards, it keeps track of your other apps that you're downloading and deleting. It logs your location every 30 seconds. One developer who looked deep into TikTok's tracking code has called it a data collection service that is thinly veiled as a social network. According to that same person, we may not even know the full extent of everything that TikTok is tracking. That's because TikTok has so many different protections in place to hide the data that it's nearly impossible to reverse engineer everything the app is tracking. The biggest argument I've heard to justify this is that every app does it. Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, they all track your data. But in reality, the tracking isn't remotely the same. All these other apps are collecting your data too, but when you compare it to what TikTok is collecting, it's like comparing a cup of water to the ocean. On top of that, these other companies are not nearly as secretive about what they're collecting as compared to TikTok.
Executives from TikTok, they will never come and take the oath and testify in public. That, I think, is unusual, and I think it begs the question, what is it they have to hide?
Data tracking keeps getting more mysterious from here. According to a study by URL Genius, more than 90% of data tracking on the app was being done by third parties, meaning even TikTok doesn't have control over this. The third-party tracking still happened, even when users didn't opt into allowing tracking in the app setting, according to the study. Users aren't even able to see what data is being shared with third parties and how that data is being used. This becomes a bigger issue when you factor in that more than 1/3 of TikTok's audience are teenagers. Extremely impressionable kids whose data is in control of a Chinese company, and use of that data is impossible to track.
It is required under Chinese law to share user data with Beijing. And TikTok has admitted that it has sent user data to China. To put it bluntly, this is a major security risk for the American people. And what kind of data is TikTok collecting as it runs on our phones? A heck of a lot more than you would think. Images, of course, that users post. But TikTok also collects information about the messages that you send, about the apps that you use, the other apps on your phone. It collects the sites that you visit. It collects your search history. It collects your keystrokes. It collects your location data. It stores all of this and maybe lots more. And I can tell you, as the father of 2 small children, who already have many of their friends on social media, even though they're quite young, I find this absolutely horrifying.
In 2020, TikTok was caught collecting excessive personal data on young children under 13, which is illegal in almost every country. TikTok was also sued for transferring personal data from its users to Chinese servers. TikTok has publicly said that the CCP has no control or access to foreign users' data, but then it quietly transfers its foreign users' data to China, where there is no such thing as a private company, where the law says that every citizen and company is required to support, assist, and cooperate with the state intelligence work. So yeah, it's kind of hard to believe what TikTok is saying here. TikTok's data harvesting methods are so intrusive that the US military has banned its members from having TikTok on their phone, and instructed them to have their family members remove TikTok. Around the world, countries are realizing why TikTok is so dangerous to their society. So if you know someone close to you who's addicted to TikTok, please share this video with them or share it with your friends on social media. TikTok is not just another social media app. It is much more dangerous. All of these threats became more apparent when people realized that the CCP had been using TikTok to push Chinese propaganda to other countries. First, it starts with something small like this. As you're watching that video, the algorithm is tracking everything. How long you're watching, whether you're pressing the like button, commenting on it, or reading other people's comments. As you spend more time on posts like these, TikTok will keep serving you posts that are similar, but it gets more and more sinister. There are channels built to target young users and teach them about how free speech, democracy, and capitalism is the wrong way of life, and the Chinese way is the right way. This channel did a great video on how TikTok gets users deeper and deeper into this brainwashing rabbit hole. I highly recommend you check it out if you want to understand how sinister all this really is. But it doesn't just stop there. TikTok is also quick to take down content that doesn't agree with Chinese values. There's evidence that TikTok censors posts on topics like the Hong Kong protests, as well as references to Tiananmen Square massacre, Tibetan and Taiwanese independence, the South China Sea dispute, and the treatment of Uyghurs.
Here are some of your favorite clothing lines that are connected to forced labor camps in Xinjiang, China. Some of them you may or may not have known about. Say goodbye to your favorite shoes because Fila does not support Uyghurs. If you love Abercrombie & Fitch's sweaters, I'd say find a new company. Mothers and fathers are separated from their children to make clothes for your kids. I would say stop supporting Carters.
When a 17-year-old user from New Jersey made a video criticizing the Chinese government's treatment of the Uyghur ethnic minority, her account was just deleted from the platform. It was only reinstated after the news was picked up by some of the bigger media outlets. Also, quick side note, the CCP has been sending bots on other platforms like YouTube just to push propaganda and drown out criticism. So, if you guys can take a quick second to scroll down and hit that like button, it helps me out a lot with the reach of this video. Because of all this, a US senator has said TikTok is a Trojan horse for the Chinese Communist Party. India, Bangladesh, Indonesia, and many more countries that aren't so friendly with China have decided to ban TikTok. India has mentioned that TikTok was a national security threat, especially when you consider the CCP could have easy access to the data. According to the Indian government, the decision to ban the app was to protect the data and privacy of its 1.3 billion citizens, and to put a stop to technology that was stealing and transmitting users' data in unauthorized servers outside of India. The US government agreed with these claims as well. In 2020, a Department of Justice report showed that the TikTok CEO is firmly in line with the CCP's propaganda and has shown in the past that he is willing to do anything to please the Chinese government. The report also stated that there was evidence to prove that TikTok constantly transmits US data to China. That information can be assessed by Chinese authorities to track Americans and build dossiers that could be deployed for blackmail. Also, as I mentioned earlier, the Justice Department pointed out in the report that ByteDance is beholden to Chinese laws that may require the company to assist in surveillance and intelligence operations at the direction of the Chinese government. Because of all these issues that pertain to national security, citizens' privacy, protecting data of young kids, and much more, the Trump administration actually pushed hard to ban TikTok. But instead of this being a unifying national security issue, this ban became a political issue. I don't want to dig into the political arguments, I'm sure you guys know how that plays out. But I do want to look at one specific argument that a lot of people brought up against banning TikTok. Some pretty smart people argued that the government shouldn't ban TikTok because that sends a bad message out to the investors and entrepreneurs. America is a safe haven for free business and enterprise. We are a capitalist society where we let the market decide, and the government banning a private business is not what this country is about. Here's my counter to this argument. I always believe that capitalism is also about fairness. If our companies can't go to China and operate freely, then these Chinese companies, which are basically controlled by the CCP, shouldn't cry about being banned from our market. Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube are all banned in China because the CCP doesn't want foreign companies collecting Chinese citizens' data. Well, you can't cry foul when the same thing happens to you. But the TikTok ban wasn't successful because TikTok claimed in court that it never sent US data to China, and the CCP has no control over the company. TikTok had to sell a small part of the company to American companies, and the company promised to never share anything with the CCP. But boy, was all of that wrong. How can the CCP not have influence on the company when the CCP is one of the investors in ByteDance? On top of that, the CCP controls one of 3 board seats of the company. This gives them more insight into the inner workings of ByteDance and also gives the Chinese government the ability to shape the future of the company. Also remember how TikTok said in court that the CCP has no access to the data? Yeah, well, about that. Based on some leaked audio recordings from TikTok's employee meetings, all the US data is available in China. In fact, Chinese engineers have better knowledge of how American data is handled than TikTok's American employees. In a meeting, a director referred to one Beijing-based engineer as a master admin who had access to everything. So, I urge you guys, please, think more before you continue to use TikTok.